Hi, everyone. Welcome to this vlog that we call BOMA Greater Dallas Unplugged, where I try to tell you about something new or even just remind you about something. As we continue through our membership renewal period, I thought I would provide you with many reasons why you should renew. If not, tell your friends, owners, why choose BOMA. Last week, I had JJ Colburn speak to us about why it's important to have a membership in associations, especially during this time right now. I personally do not know how I could have done it without being a member of BOMA, without the network that I've gained in the last 10 years, just with the memberships, our members' knowledge that they share with us, and just the information that BOMA in general has just given to us. So the conversation that I'd like to share with you this week is the one that I have with my good friend, Jonathan JJ Jones, another JJ, and we talk about Texas BOMA. I hope you enjoy this and learn a little bit more about Texas BOMA. Hi, everyone. For this episode, I have my good friend JJ Jones, Jonathan JJ Jones, with us. Last week, I had Mr. Colburn, who's another JJ in my life, but this one is my good friend JJ, and he is our current president for Texas BOMA. So I thought it'd be really good for us to hear out, how your membership dollars, it does go towards Texas BOMA. And I wanted to show you how important it is and what Texas BOMA is doing for you. So, just knowing that there's a whole nother sector out there working for our members in this way is just wonderful to know. So, hey, JJ, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on. Trying to stay warm, but I got plenty of insulation, so that's easy.
It's going to warm up, and next week's going to be a nice one, just in time for election week.
Just in time.
Well, so thank you for taking the time to explain to our members what Texas BOMA is and what you guys do for us. But before we dive into Texas BOMA in general, can you just kind of give us a little brief, like how you got into this industry? Tell us a little bit about yourself for those that may not know you.
Wow. Well, that's a lot. I don't know where to start. I always hate this question because I never know where to start. So I'll just talk about industry stuff. I broke into the industry back in 2003, and I started on the maintenance side of things. I was working at the time it was Hunt Oil before it was Hunt Consolidated, and then kind of grew into a little bit more administrative facilities role as I grew in my career there. And then when I finished college, go Comets, see some UTD degrees there on the wall. There's a MBA and a Master's of Operations Supply Chain. And then I got into property management proper after that happened. But my adventures with BOMA started around 2010, the first time that I was part of a team that had entered Toby. And then about a year and a half, maybe 2 years later, I got invited to my first YP meeting. And then the rest is history. So I dove in with both feet. I have been on almost every committee with the exception of education. I've served as chair of several committees, government affairs, YP. I've been on the board. I have been on the regional board. I've been on committees internationally. I now currently serve on the board for BOMI and am the next in line to be the chair for the Cressy board. And with all those amazing accolades, a few Toby wins in there, I thought that, oh yeah, my wall of BOMA right here. I got a few things over time. And I thought it was time to join, well, not join Texas BOMA, but try to be an executive there. And it happened. I lucked out. I can't believe that of all the amazing people we have in Texas, that was the one they picked. So that's kind of my journey to the board of Texas BOMA.
Very good. So tell us a little bit about Texas BOMA.
Well, Texas BOMA actually for a very long time, long before I was a board member there, was one of my favorite parts about being a member. It was actually, I started going, and anyone can go, may I add. Anybody can go to the meetings. I actually was on the Government Affairs Committee, and I asked some of senior leadership and some past presidents, how you get more involved, what can I do, thinking I can set the world on fire. They're like, have you gone to the Texas BOMA meetings? I was like, no, I'm going to go. Turns out that we meet quarterly and it's in Austin. So, that was an interesting conversation to have with my boss. Hey, I'm going to Austin tomorrow. But I made a habit of going, and it's great. Every chapter in Texas is represented there, from Austin down to San Antonio, and every chapter has seats available at the table. And man, I should know this better than that, but we have a seat for every BAE has a seat. The president of the chapter, vice president of the chapter, secretary, treasurer of the chapter, and then in our case, I know we have government affairs chair and the liaison, the board liaison for government affairs, can all go and sit at the table. Mm-hmm. But of course, you can go even if you don't fill one of those positions. You just don't have a vote. Mm-hmm. And if anybody that fills one of those positions doesn't show up or decides to call in, you get a seat at the table. I've gotten the opportunity to be Mike Pugh before. I've been able to be Andy Taylor before. I've even been Shane Baggett before. So I've had quite the career being able to be all these other guys, or at least trying to fit in those shoes, right?
Yeah.
But Texas BOMA is great because the focus is on advocacy, which is one of the most important things that we do in BOMA, because it has a direct impact on the laws and the tax codes and everything that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And in some ways, it's one of the best ways to bring values to our ownerships, our management companies that pay for our membership if you're not paying for your own, and really have a direct impact on what we do and the industry.
Which is huge. That's so huge because we have Lock Lord, that's our lobbyist. Go a little bit on that. Tell us a little bit about how it's been working with Lock Lord and what they provide for us.
So Lock Lord is our counsel. We've had on retainer. We keep them there for several reasons. They're attorneys, they're lobbyists, they're political advisors, but they worked with us for a very long time. So they understand our business in a way that it might be difficult getting someone else to understand just from pure experience. And since they're so tied into the pulse of what's going on, one of the best parts about these Texas BOMA visits and the information that we get is that Lock Lord is able to go through everything going on and give us not only an update, but advice if it is applicable. We get an update on every race that's going on within the state. If it's something that can impact us nationally, we go through that. We talk through, strange details of each one of those races, whether it be, their need for financing or that it's a much closer race than, maybe we should be comfortable with, or so on and so forth. And then, of course, when there's issues that come up, we have legislators, state legislators that have, hundreds of bills that they have to sift through, thousands of bills maybe, and Lock Lord can take all that and find items that are directly applicable to us. And then even better than that, you know, go beyond our limited knowledge of legalese. I mean, we can read through a lease, we can read through a contract, so we get it kind of, but I don't know if you've ever read a bill. Sometimes it's like in a different language. And even if it's not, it can be difficult to understand what it actually does or its impact of what it does. So they parcel that stuff for us. They present to us great information that we can discuss. If we want recommendations, they're happy to give us recommendations. And they're usually in line with what our needs are because they understand our business. But no one understands it better than us. So even there are times where we have recommendations from them and they may have underestimated or overestimated a concern that we have. And we decide to go against what the recommendation is. And that happens plenty of times too.
Yeah, so Locklord, what I was so impressed with just in this last year, since we've had to go, the governor having so many different ordinances and his press conferences and everything, we would get a summary email from Robert Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally, it was a summary of what the governor talked about, what was in the ordinance, because I don't know, it's just what you said. I tried to look at the ordinance, looking through it, and gosh darn it, it totally went over my head. But thank goodness we have Robert Miller to summarize what that dang ordinance was saying in real life. And so that was the biggest value for me, for sure. And for, we've got Angela Franklin and you with Crescent, the three of us, providing the information to our company and sharing that with everyone. And it was just that was such an advantage for us, to be able to get that. And that's what Locklord does for us, is, doing that. And then the other thing I was thinking about was, with our PAC, our Political Action Committee,
Mm-hmm.
You said making recommendations. They've helped us make recommendations on the legislators who have supported us in the past, and help, providing them with a little check from each local. And it's Texas BOMA PAC, but we were able to give that to our local legislators.
Well, that's one of the things that's very interesting about what we do, because we're really diligent about making sure that all of these donations are individual donations. This isn't companies. This isn't a situation where there's big business and politics at all. These are our dollars, our members' dollars, right? They're contributing to help protect the industry that they make their living on, right? And it's a really interesting dynamic because there are times where what's in the best interest for our industry, our jobs, our ownership, our buildings are supported by a candidate that may not be the individual's personal preference for a political candidate.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's something else that's an interesting dynamic about being an organization, because not only are you parsing, all the information, but you're compartmentalizing sometimes your personal opinions and thoughts, versus what you're an agent of, which is your ownership group, and so on and so forth. And that helps a lot of times, to think of it in that terms. But the advantage for an individual is because we get so much better educated on issues and how things work, not only for our companies and in our jobs, but how it's going to impact our lives, at our home. So it's really an interesting group to sit in on. We get a ton of great information. Locklord's awesome about that. They're great about taking our PAC budget and making recommendations on where we should supply or who we should fund, based on mostly who supports us and helps us, block things that are bad for us, or push things through that are good for us.
Well, they're a great group, and they're so nice to. We had Neff Partita speak to us last week at our luncheon, and
Yeah, that's great.
Robert Miller will be again speaking, helping with the medical office building committee, and talking in February about how everything is working out in the medical MOB industry. So they're such a great group of people, so smart. Just love talking with Neff last week. Um, and it just he Robert Miller's got a great team there for sure.
Yeah, they
He's
do.
got
It's
a
great.
good team. So tell us a little bit why you ran, talk about your experience as, president and, going through the executive committee for Texas BOMA.
Well, it happened really quick. Like I said, I kind of gave my journey, or at least what I saw, and I thought that it would be longer before I got here. But we had somebody change careers, and then a seat opened, and then I got moved up faster than I would have, and that happened, and all those things happened, and so I just kind of slipped and fell into the presidency, maybe 2 years earlier than I was going to, and so I'm thankful, and I'm really glad that I had been involved in going so long before, or else I feel like I would have been really behind on what was going on and the things we were working on. But it's been great. I think really, if I have to be succinct in saying what my real motivation was, I loved Advocacy Day from the first time I went. I didn't know about it when I first started going to Texas BOMA, and I got encouraged to go. After I went my first time, I was blown away, and since then I've been twisting people's arms to go every year after that, and our group keeps getting bigger and bigger, and once people go, they never stop. It's a really cool experience, and that was my big motivator, and what what I wanted to help keep growing.
So speaking on that, tell us a little bit more about that. It's my favorite too. It's you're right. Once you go the first time, you're hooked and you will never not go because it is such an amazing experience. So tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, I can't get enough. I mean, we go down to the Capitol. So Advocacy Day is great because we pick a day. Usually it's end of January, early February, and we go down the Capitol. I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. We only meet every 2 years, but it's usually like a Tuesday, Wednesday. Go down Tuesday, come back Wednesday type thing. And you come down Tuesday. There'd be a great. We have a block of rooms at a hotel. We go into one of the big ballrooms, and we have kind of a training. And there's they talk about etiquette and what points we're going to make and the whole nine, and kind of our focus for the next day. And we'll have a cocktail reception because we're good at that. And then we'll have a speaker come, and we have state senators come and all kinds of people come and talk to us. A lot of times when we were pushing Texas out of town really big, Betancourt came and talked to us, and that was great. So we'll do that, and then kind of the night's kind of your own. Usually, we get together and talk advocacy or BOMA or work, whatever, and hang out. And the next morning we get up, right out of Bushy Tail, we meet for breakfast, kind of have a quick little powwow as we get into groups, and then off to the Capitol. And yeah, it's great because we do a really good job of grouping people that have experience with people that don't. And so no one ever is overwhelmed by the moment, because I know some people are nervous about talking or feel like they don't know what to say because they've never been. But every time I go and there's that person that is worried they're not going to say a word, by the time we're done, they're leading the charge, which is great. And we go in fully equipped. I mean, we have leave behinds and pamphlets and all sorts of things. They typically try to group us in groups where an individual who lives in a district or represents property in a district is in the group going to see the representative, right? And they're very open-eared. Usually get to talk to the representative. Sometimes it's their chief aide, which sometimes is even better because they're usually the ones on top of it, right?
Yeah, they're the ones
But we go
writing
in
it.
there and yeah, we go in there and we're strong. Texas BOMA adds about $18 billion to the Texas economy, which is huge. I mean, that's billion with a B. We have 5.7 billion brought in through salaries and other financial components. 130 something thousand jobs that are created by it. 750 million square feet. It's a big organization. And so when we all collectively get together, there's a presence. They bring us into the meeting hall. They'll recognize us. The legislators have no problem talking to us. Sometimes they'll really get into it with us. Sometimes they'll look at what we're talking about. All the time they're asking what our position is. And in Texas, we're very fortunate because, we have a strong economy for the most part. Real estate's doing well. I know that things are weird now, but the legislature only meets every other year. So one of the advantages of the economy is that things don't change from a law standpoint all that much. And they have a very tiny window to accomplish any change. I think it's 147 days. Fact check me on that. But so if there's no momentum for a bill going into session, it's very hard for it to get passed. If it picks up a lot of momentum during session, then it could be a challenge to block something or if that's something we want. A lot of times when things are good, our focus is defense, which is go into the legislative office, say these are the things that people want to change, and we are asking you, listen, we don't want to change. Things are good as they are, and this is why. But every once in a while, there's something that we need changed, and we get behind it.
Yeah, and I think that's Lord, preparing us to say the right things. But I think the one thing that we have to remember is we're just there as a resource to them as they get these, like I said, the bills that are written in such funny words and such funny, outlines and things that they've reached out to us before. If it's been our state legislators, even our federal legislators have reached out to us after we've talked to them, after visiting with them, and they know that they can come to us as a resource and provide that, which kind of goes into my next thing with you. As being president during the pandemic, you've had to send letters in probably more than any other president has before. Tell us a little bit about those letters.
So yeah, I was gonna piggyback. You mind if I piggyback on something you just said?
Sure, piggyback away.
So in my personal experience, one of my favorite things, like you said, we become a resource, and we are a resource. I remember we dropped off information, and one of the aides came and met us in the lunchroom because it was a retainage legislation that was trying to get passed, and basically what the goal was is GCs and the like wanted us to put retainage in a third-party fund so someone else could hold the money, right? But essentially what it does is it adds cost, right? Because you've got to pay someone else to manage it and the whole nine, blah, blah, blah. And so we were against it because we didn't want to add cost. There's some advantages, obviously, for us holding retainage and things like that. He actually came and met us in the lunchroom and discussed it with us in further detail so that he could better explain why we were against it, which was really cool. And it turns out that, it didn't pass, which is good. But to your point, yes, this has been an interesting year full of challenges for everybody. As you can imagine, this is not what I thought President Year would be like, but it is what it is. Obviously with COVID, we unfortunately have changed Advocacy Day, which would be next year. We needed odd years, to more of a virtual event. We're not even sure where the legislators are going to be, whether they're going to be at the Capitol or not. And so we're working on a solution to still stay involved, if possible, but session may not even go in because of this. So we kind of hurry up and wait game. As far as what I've been able to do this year, the letters that you speak of, again, I just kind of tripped and fell into it. Had no idea this is going to happen this year. But Robert Allen, who was leading a business sector of Governor Abbott's Reopen Texas Task Force, had my contact information. And so I had a direct line to the governor in terms of advice and recommendations for commercial real estate. How it happened was funny. Should I tell the funny story? Sure.
Sure, do it.
I woke up on a Sunday morning. My hair was disheveled, as were my clothes. I don't remember what I was doing the night before because it was a long time ago. But it was early on during the early days of what is now known as the pandemic. Things were starting to close down. It was getting real serious for a lot of people in a lot of places. I woke up thinking it's going to be a regular Sunday, head to the bathroom, and my phone starts ringing. I'm in there, and I'm like, who's calling me? It's Sunday. I look over, and I didn't recognize the number. It was an Austin area code. Something in me was like, answer it. So I did. I was like, yeah. Because who's calling me on Sunday morning that I don't know? And it was Jonathan Jones. Is this Jonathan Jones? Yes. This is Robert Allen, Governor Abbott's office. You know Governor Abbott, right? Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course, I'm straightening up. Nobody's in the bathroom. I'm straightening up, trying to, how can I help you, And he said that, they needed some recommendations and some thoughts from commercial real estate on, not only safe reopening, but, in terms of what kind of liability ownership should take on. And hey, we need some answers by noon, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, so all hands on deck. And, fortunately, our industry, we're very forward thinking. We were already ahead of the curve on some of the reopening things that were of concern. Elevator choke points was a big one. And the other one was like dense office space. And our recommendations were, at the time, we had very little data on the disease and how it was spreading and the numbers and all this kind of stuff. So, we came with a four corners approach. If your elevator is large enough, if not, it needs to be more. In some cases, we were even saying one person per. Typically, the buildings that are big enough for it to be a big choke point, you're large enough to have more than one person per. And then in some dense office space, rotating shifts, having people sit one cube apart, that kind of thing. And then there was an ask about, liability. What kind of liability should the management companies and the ownerships take on? Which that word liability gets us all scared, right? Like, oh, I don't want to,
Yep.
But this was a big point where your dollars, while I don't get paid from them, it's the access to situations like this that, I've been waiting for a very long time to have some direct impact on. And, thanks to, the great board that we have and teams all around Texas. And, we were able to talk to the governor about what our responsibility should be during this in terms of, don't make us close our doors. We shouldn't be the ones enforcing and determining, whose business is essential and who's not. Allow us to do good faith efforts in order to keep ourselves safe and our tenants or customers safe. These kind of things, and really shifting liability away from management companies and ownerships and pushing it on the individual companies. Because at the end of the day, that's really who's responsible, right? Additionally, we wanted to make sure that no legislation was proposed or pushed on us that forced us into a position where we were liable. There was another letter written about that, basically, putting some protections in place to keep ownership groups and management companies away from being, responsible in lawsuits when people are catching the disease and things happen, because it's essentially indirect and outside of our control, right? So those are some ways that this year, very directly, our influence and our recommendation and our request have been, taken into consideration and has shaped the way Texas reopened. And again, whether regardless of anybody's personal feelings or personal situation, this situation where we're representatives of our industry, our ownership groups, and our careers,
Yeah.
and what we want as individuals may not match what's best for that, but that's our job, and that's what we're doing. So that was a really cool experience, and probably more than I would have gotten to do if it was just a regular old year.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, JJ, I appreciate you and your service that you've done for Texas BOMA and for BOMA Greater Dallas. And I hope that people see that if they were not a member of an association of BOMA in general, that they wouldn't know. I mean, we're working behind the scenes. Some people really don't realize of what's going on. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about what you guys have been doing for us behind the curtain, and and telling everybody about that. So thank you so much.
Anytime. I didn't realize that I had agreed to do this, but apparently I did. So I'll keep my word.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Thank you to JJ for sharing his experiences and knowledge on Texas BOMA. As you can see so far with all of these episodes, I hope that you see that we have passionate volunteers that are providing you with value for your membership. I hope that you also see that it's also about what you put into it. And what I mean by that is I hope that you try Advocacy Day, try visiting our legislators when they're in town, because that experience is so important. And if I may share with you guys, I challenge you guys to do this because it is such an experience. Yes, it's nerve-wracking to do, but there's nothing more than actually speaking with the staff or the legislator and taking a picture with them. Of course, that's super fun, and putting it on Instagram, but they are listening to us. They are engaged. They're asking great questions, and they know that we are a resource. And I feel like that is the most important, that's the most exhilarating thing to know, is that we're actually making a difference by going and talking to them. And so I hope that if any of you guys are interested in doing it and you haven't done it, please try it. It's so much fun. Like I said, you're gonna get hooked and just never want to miss it. If it's Advocacy Day at the state or if it's going to DC, it is so much fun. There's just this buzz energy when you go up to the Hill and speak to the legislators. So reach out to the office or a member of the Government Relations Committee and see how you can be a part of that. On to our reminders. We have our toy drive that's open now, so don't forget to head to our website to find that link on walmart.com. There is a special link to our registry and be a part of the toy drive there. We have our ally councils are providing a forum on how different can be better. That will be on November 5th. And they'll have discussions on how to learn from the challenges that we've had this year and how to adapt for 2021. It will be a great, positive, and encouraging session that I hope that you guys attend and find that there's lots of value amongst your peers that you can learn great information from. The MOB seminar is November 11th, where you'll have topics on the state of the healthcare market, joint commission changes that every owner should know, and managers too, and then also the healthcare development in an uncertain world. Registration is going on the website right now. Principal member event is November 12th. We'll have Dr. Michael Gao, CEO and Medical Director for Haven Diagnostics. He will help us understand what business owners are thinking and provide us with ways to communicate to our tenants about returning to the office. This is a breakfast meeting and it'll be here at Hotel Crescent Court. Salary surveys, guys, you should have received this email, so make sure that you fill it out for mid-November. And then we have our November membership luncheon registration up. The luncheon will be November 17th, and we will have an in-person and we will have a virtual option for you guys. We'll have Dr. Mark Dotzer speak to us about the economy after the election. So it'll be really interesting to see what he has to say for that. And then last thing I wanted to tell you guys to mark your calendars now for December 2nd. It's the Women's Breakfast, and it'll be held at Galleria Towers. This event is always very, very intriguing and very interesting. I love this event. It's a good one. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all for joining me on another episode of BOMA Greater Dallas Unplugged. Stay safe, stay strong, keep up the good work. Thanks, guys. Happy Halloween and go vote.